Scots, Donald Glover, come together to celebrate the life and achievements of what we consider to be our greatest, or who we consider to be our greatest poet, Robert Burns. He's a man whose work has been translated into probably more languages just than any other poet in the world, and whose work has become deeply embedded into human vernacular. How many people do not know at least one or two lines of Auld Lang Syne? Sing it to close every social occasion in the UK and abroad. Who hasn't heard of the best laid schemes of mice and men going after the play? In fact, somebody mentioned it tonight without any prompting. Now, Burns was a great observer of society with an amazing gift to articulate what he saw. His observations in life, his poetry and song are as relevant today as they were probably 200 years ago. For instance, he wrote a poem called To a Louse, and it was a dig about the social religious pretense in writing today. But two of the lines that he wrote in To a Louse were, "Oh, want some power, the gift he gives, to see ourselves as others see us." What he's saying there is that it's really great to see ourselves as other people view us. And sometimes we think we're quite pretentious and pompous. Or we might not think we're pretentious and pompous, but other people do think we are. In A Man's a Man for all that, Burns shows that the qualities of honesty, independent mind and hard work are more important than social class. He said that for all that and all that, your tinsel show and all that, the honest man will e'er say poor is kind of meant for all that. In other words, there's no difference between classes. You know, an honest person is as good as a king or somebody of high ranking. Now, Burns wasn't just a social observer, he was also an excellent satirist, and many times he exposed pious self-righteousness and hypocrisy in his poetry. He wrote, "O ye what are say good yourselves, say pious and say holy. You've not to do but mark and tell your neighbour's faults and folly." So people, obviously, think they're dead pious, but they go out and chat about what their neighbours are up to, how bad they are, this, that, and the next thing. And God recognised that and saw it as a bad thing. Of course, Burns was also a great romantic, and one of his famous songs, "My Love is like a Red Rose," starts with, "Oh, my love is like a red rose that's newly sprung in June. My love is like a melody that's sweetly played in tune." So he could mix and match his writing. So he was an absolutely great, creative person. He didn't just stick to one particular form of writing. But Burns, who was he? And how did he come to be so renowned? Certainly among Scots people, but other people all over. He was born on the 25th of July 1759 in the village of Alloway, in Ayrshire, Scotland. His family lived a very harsh rural life as farmers. In fact, they were tenant farmers, and the life, to say the least, was quite marginal. They had a constant struggle to make a living, and this constant struggle coloured Burns' later works in terms of his poetry and his songs. His parents, William and Agnes Burns, they toiled hard to raise their kids. They educated the family. They brought in tutors for their children to educate them. And Burns himself, he spent hours studying in addition to the hours that he spent toiling on the farm. And as he toiled on the farm, he wasn't a well person. And he did suffer from many ailments which were to come on to him in later life. He probably learned his love of Scottish folk song, and writing from his mother, who taught him traditional songs. And she probably sowed the seeds of this interest, which resulted in taking this career down the poetry and songwriting. The family were often uprooted by financial failure and various disputes with landlords. They moved from farm to farm, but despite these frequent upheavals, Rabbie managed to keep his ear to his muse. Though his hands remained on the plough, he continued his deep interest in literature and the written word, and he devoured the works of novelists to his day. Now, I suspect that Robert Burns, in this day and age, if he was alive in this day and age, would be a great orator, he'd be a very, very great literist, and he would write amongst the best, probably a professor of literature at some Lincoln University. But Lassie's literature and song always played an important role in Burns' life as he grew up. He experienced many highs and lows. His father, William, died in 1784, and the period after that was pretty bad for him. Probably one of the most lowest that he had in his life. It was a time of stress and dejection. He became at this time involved in several affairs with various women, and they all affected greatly his work and reflected in his work. With Elizabeth Patten, who bore my daughter in 1785, with Mary Campbell, who Burns called his Highland Mary. Interestingly, she suffered an early death from typhus, which was probably brought on by Burns himself. She probably got an infection by nursing Burns during his bout of typhus. In fact, he refers to it in one of his poems. But all fell deaths untimely frost that nipped my flower so early. Now green's the sod and cold's the clay, but that's my Highland Mary. Of course, Jean Armour, his Bunny Jean, his lifelong love, with whom he was actually married, and would bear 8 children. Despite, or perhaps because of Burns' emotionally turbulent time, he immersed himself in his poetry, and he succeeded in publishing his first volume of work entitled Poems Chiefly in the Scots Dialect. This is more commonly known as the Kilmarnock edition, and there is a copy of it lying on the table at the back of the room. Sadly, it's not an original copy because we can't afford that, so we've got some cheap and nasty copy from 1901, which I'm glad to say that Alec brought along this year.
Daily Express 1935.
Daily Express 1935. There is no more informative work on Burns than that volume. Yeah. When the Kilmarnock edition was published in July of 1786, it was an immediate success, and those reviews were full of praise for Burns. The Plymouth poet became the toast of Scottish society. He made tours of the borders and the Highlands. He was invited into the grandest estates and the lowliest, most humble crofts. He became a legend, but sadly, he never really earned anything sufficient to live from his poetry. Very famous guy in those days, but he didn't earn anything to live off of. But he wasn't only a poet, he was a collector of song, and he did a terrific work in establishing, recording many Scottish folk songs, traditional songs, and he would have been lost to the nation if he hadn't done so. Indeed, he considered his most important artistic work to be a volume called the Scots Musical Museum. In fact, there are 3 volumes of traditional verse that he published in collaboration with others. And this included some of his own songs, such as Caught the Ewes to the Nows, Ye Fond Kiss, Ye Bankston Braes, O Lonely Doon, and My Love Is Like a Red, Red Rose. I'm not forgetting Auld Lang Syne, which is first recorded there. It's still regarded as one of the most finest collections of Scottish song ever assembled. Now, Burns, he longed to leave the physical labour of the farm. He wanted to gain a modest but steady income and to have more time for his poetry and song. Indeed, in 1790, at the age of 31, he took an appointment with the excise, but it seems, however, that he was treating one headache for another. He did have more time for his art, but he lost his inspiration at the end, which came from the rural setting of his farm days. He still endured long hours of stressful work working for the excise, and in fact this did not help his health. He spent many hours riding in inclement weather in the south of Scotland. He'd always suffered from poor health for much of his life. He was often ill with violent colds and fevers. Indeed, on the 21st of July 1796, at the age of 37, he died from rheumatic fever. He was buried in the day that his 9th child was born. Around 10,000 people were at the funeral. Some biographers speak of the last period of Burns' life as a tarnished one. You know, this might be true up to a point. He did have a much more prosaic existence than at his glory days. He's a darling of Scottish society. His life is long. There are more love affairs. His marriage to Jean Armour, more affairs and more children, both in their wedlock. His poetry output slowed, but still included some of his greatest works, including his masterpiece, Tam O'Shanter, with Alec Gray was a brilliant rendition of to Lord. Burns lived a full life as a father, a husband, a lover, an intellectual, a poet. In his art and life, he loved beauty and honesty without despising arrogance and hypocrisy. He loved a good party, a good story, a good song, and a good night with friends. He loved life, he loved the lassies, and he loved being one of the boys. So, in my opinion, that's why the Scots like celebrating Burns each year. We celebrate his 6th birth and toasting his memory. So even today, 252 years after his birth, he's still doing it, and more people are doing it the world over. Yeah, there's no better memorial to the man than the durability and relevance of his work. And this is probably best illustrated. Probably his most renowned song the world over, Auld Lang Syne. Should all acquaintances be forgot and never brought to mind. Should all acquaintances be forgot, Auld Lang Syne. For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne. We'll take a cup of kindness yet. Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding. Raise your glasses. A poet of the ages, Scotland's best loved son, to the immortal memory of Robert Burns.
Alex Leopard. Ali Bird.